You see me. Orange jacket. Oh, a hoodie underneath. I got the beanie on. You know I'm looking clean. Soldi, man, he's in the studio right now. He's recording tracks, dropping hits, dropping bombs right now. So he's not gonna be here for the interview, so I had to cover for him, you know. So but listen, that's besides the point. I'm talking about the inner fabrics of a lot of stuff, the nitty gritty. All right, the stuff that matters, right? And I'm here with a very knowledgeable person, somebody who, quite frankly, is really the king of this stuff. I mean, let's be frank. Listen, my friend, introduce yourself.
Yo, what's up, guys? I am a mental illness simulator, as I'm known on Instagram and SoundCloud, but y'all can call me Evan.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Evan, tell us about yourself. Give us a brief summary so people can get familiar with you.
I'm just kind of like a goofy little guy. Professionally, I am in sales. However, for music, I do kind of a all-around sort of approach. I play in 2 bands that I'm local in. Neither of those have put anything out yet, officially. But the other side of my work is just in Ableton, hustling it out, making beats, making stuff that I like to hear. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. And that sounds like kind of like a heavy workload a lot, sales and doing 2 bands and then Ableton. And that whole path is like they're interconnected, but a large craft to work with. So how did you get here though? How did you get into the underground space? How did you find yourself leaning into this internet area? And just how'd you get here?
Yo, for real, so there's not a lot of people who admit this, but I love shit posting on the music board on 4chan, and there's a lot of people who just are spamming, links to their stuff on all those posts, and some of those people have, real traction and real pull, and I mean, Car Seat Headrest, I'm pretty sure I've heard they came out of 4chan. The Gex definitely came out of 4chan, and I'm sure there's a bunch of others that got that initial small underground following that were spamming the boards, you know what I mean? So I was kind of posting my links in there, and then I got a buddy who he posted something on there and we connected and we've talked. We haven't worked yet, but we're planning on it. But he was the one who actually introduced me to you and told me that you had that Discord server. So I followed you up on Instagram, and it turns out you're out here hustling, doing your work, getting your following, you know what I mean? So that's sort of how I got here today, you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. A lot of what happens in this space is just a whole lot of attention seeking. There's an economy off of that revolves around that. And so the quicker I explained this before, if I can try to provide value to people, I become more valuable in that way. So that's kind of been my whole paradigm as of recent. And now I'm starting to shift the set back to actual content production. In your terms, how could you describe your creative process and how it all fits into the space that you're in?
Well, my creative process is I look at music as more of a thing for self-fulfillment, and if other people like that, that's cool. But my main sort of driving force is there's all this music in my head that I can hear that other people aren't really making. And when I hear, you hear some songs where you're yeah, that's a bit that I want to incorporate into my thing, that's what having inspiration is, I guess. But you hear that and you're but if you took that and put it into the context of your own work, it would be more your own, you know?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So that's sort of what drives me, is I just want to make the music that I want to hear, and if other people like that, then that's cool. But then, as I mentioned to you a little earlier, there's totally that aspect of like creation where like it just is work, you know, like the attention seeking aspect. If you want to make money making music, like, you do kind of have to hustle and make sacrifices in terms of like, you know, your creative liberty, I suppose, especially if you're working for somebody else. And I have probably like 50 different tracks that I'm currently working on that aren't representative of me, but that doesn't mean they're bad. And so I'm just trying to like do something with that, you know. Right. That's gonna start happening a little down the line. So
you said a lot of important stuff there, and earlier you were talking about like almost like fusion, where you have a lot of things and you put them into the context of your own creative stuff, right? I have been passively rediscovering a lot of the stuff that has influenced my whole sound besides rap music, and a lot of it comes from video game stuff, right? Like some of this is crazy, but I've been noticing it a lot with like my soundscape, like Skyrim music. It's kind of like classical, right? But if you replace that whole, a lot of it is ambient music, like just because you're wandering out through a world, and it complements the visual aspects of the game and how it feels, and that's why it's like so renowned, because it's also like phonically trancing, like it takes you there, and that sort of ambiance is important. And I try and put that type of essence into my own stuff when I try and like make beats and stuff. And there's a lot of drum and bass that I look to as well. Is there anything you like can call on for some of these influences that you bring into your own context?
I am a huge fan of like, you know, late 90s sort of like alt rock, early 2000s. Not, you know, when people talk about alt rock, I get the feeling that they kind of think like, you know, if you're like, I listen to early 2000s alt rock, I get the feeling people assume that you're talking about like 3 Days Grace, which is not the sort of music that I'm into, but like, you know, like Queens of the Stone Age, Weezer-y sort of stuff, I eat that stuff up. I have a few friends in the city that I live in who are like electronic guys who take a lot of influence from Tipper. If you are familiar with Tipper, it's just like EDM. But they, you know, they're both wickedly talented producers, and right now they're doing a lot of stuff that really, really interests me. So, you know, I'm kind of like listening to those sort of like almost like post dubstep-y sort of sounds and incorporating it in. I love bro step. Take from that what you will. I mean, like Skrillex's OG.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, you know, one of the things about me is I'm not, you know, I'll like hear a lot of stuff and just remember it, but it's like I'll never ask like an artist's name. And so it's just like the sound of like some artist that I don't know is just like kind of in my head. And I can't like, you know, say, you know, since I don't know who it is, how can I say, you know what I mean?
Right.
I listen to music by the album and couldn't name a single track off it because I just put the album on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do that a lot too.
But yeah, drum and bass, of course, too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and because a lot of my like pastimes when I'm not doing anything like constructive or say productive is like I play a lot of video games, and I have like a Dolphin, the emulator on my computer, and I didn't notice, but like that during that same time period of like the late 90s, early 2000s, there's a lot of drum and bass going on. And like when I play Sonic, like I notice that type of stuff a lot.
Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack, goated. It's goated.
One of mine, my favorite Sonic soundtrack is Sonic Rush. Bro,
I actually haven't played it.
Dude, if you listen to it, it's gonna be like, whoa. It's really like, it's so telling. It's so telling. And I had that on my DS, and I can definitely start to see like those types of things ringing in. I think there's a special thing happening right now with, as more people get their hands on the internet, because like the barrier of entry is so low. People are making it on their phones and stuff now. There's going to be so many more types of fusion going on because of the internet's massive scale.
Yeah. I want to circle back to one thing and then touch on that real quick, because I just thought of a good point where you were saying, you know, like you were talking about like the ambience of a track and how you can like bring that own vibe out for yourself,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
Through your music. I'm just sort of like, I think that everything that everybody does in music, you know, if you're leading a project or if you're writing your own music, you should just kind of be writing your own soundtrack. You know what I mean?
Wow. That's a wonderful way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I kind of, that's an excellent way to put it, because when I make music or when I listen to music, even just when I close my eyes and I just think, and I don't want to think about thoughts, I think about places.
Yes.
And where that takes me. And a lot of the newer music that happens now with the amount of like automation and like chopping that goes on, I feel like I'm in almost like a cyberpunk era.
Hell yeah.
With some of the music I listen to. And I really like that. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Well, and we live in the future. And so what a fitting sort of vibe to have, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the future, back to what you were saying before about the barrier of entry being so low for music. Sometimes, you know, it works out amazingly, but other times I almost get the feeling that it's to its own detriment, where before, you know, you'd have like waves of music, you know, you'd have like grunge, and then there's post-grunge and like post-hardcore, and of course, more modern speaking, we have, you know, like there's like, I don't know, so many different kinds of music that like were their own wave through the internet, like in like 2015, 2016, 2017, and now it seems like there's not a lot of huge organized communities like there used to be. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's because everyone just kind of thinks that they can do their own thing and not like open their door to a bigger community. Have you noticed that, or is that just me?
Absolutely. I think people have gone the route of like, I think this is what it is. This is my theory. I think that is happening because the barrier of entry is low, right?
Yeah.
And so everything is becoming super niche. So everything's localized into these small communities that don't really catch with everybody going on, right?
Right.
And so in these smaller communities, people are so focused on trying to be original that you see it on my For You page where it's like, I just made a new genre. It's called cyber shit. And I'm like, okay, cool. But it doesn't really sound like anything completely new yet. And I feel like that the socialness, the antics are getting in the way of the actual just building of a community.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of people, like, you know, since we are basically forced to live with smartphones in our hands at all time to do the most menial things, or like in front of a screen most of the time to just like get through life. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of people have come to find themselves unintentionally geared to only being able to pay attention to like 30-second clips. So I think a lot of people who are like, you know, I personally don't use TikTok, but I think that a lot of people who like are paying attention to music that's happening on TikTok. They're just paying attention to like the 30-second clip of a song and then being like, okay, cool, well, now I'm never going to see that again. And they just forget about it in 20 minutes. And I think that is something that makes it really hard for, like, you know, if somebody wants to create a new genre or have like this new wave that's just not like a micro niche. It's like people need to be willing to click on the link in somebody's bio to go to their SoundCloud and then listen to their whole album and maybe enjoy it and then maybe try to emulate it. And I just think we might be in a spot right now as a society where that is really difficult, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I've dealt with this firsthand, right? So
yeah.
I made the mistake of I made an alternate version of my song and let a person come and feature on it, right? And I didn't think, and I was fine with him letting him upload the song, because at first I didn't think the song would do well. I was like, it's whatever. Sure, you can go upload it. And I would still get the revenue for it. We still did the splits and stuff. But because he uploaded it, when TikTok displayed it, it only had his name on there, right? And because he had a verse on there, so I would just let him upload it, right? The song blows up. It gets a little traction. It's got like 10,000 videos on under the sound now, right?
Right.
So then people only know the part of the song, and it's the hook, and it's my voice, but it's not the person who uploaded it. So they go to look up that person's name, and it's not me, and it's only like, it's just a big ass jungle. And people only know this part of the song. That same phenomenon happened with Steve Lacy, and he's like shutting down concerts because people only know that I bite my tongue, it's a bad habit, and that's it. Like, that's the only part people know, and it's counterintuitive. You think it's helping you, but it's also not.
Right. Well, and I think, you know, if you think about it, really, a lot of artists are really only, you know, in music at least, a lot of artists are really known for like between 1 and 5 songs, you know?
Right.
Like you see some of these artists have like 3 million plays on a song, and then the next top 5 on their Spotify, they get like 20 or 30,000 plays. And that is kind of mind-boggling to me, where it's like, so you like blew up one time, and like, you know, there's a little bit inside of me where I think like maybe that person just did not continue to do the work to like stay successful as they did with like their 3 million plays, or maybe they just like fell off or whatever. But like, you know, my dad tells me this story. I think it was Joan Jett or one of those like 80s female rock singers. He got to go meet them backstage after a concert where they had a stadium packed out and everybody only knew one of their songs. And they've been around for 40 years doing their music.
Damn.
And my dad asked her, like, hey, you know, like, that must be, like, pretty tiring, like, isn't it? And what she told him was that at the point that they were at, like, you know, they don't even look at the music like this is a fun thing anymore. Like, the music is just a job that they're doing. It's like any other job. It's like working at McDonald's. They hate it. And I can't imagine getting to the point where by trying to do something I love, I end up hating it. That just sounds dark, to be honest.
It is dark as fuck and I understand it, because it's almost insulting. I have this whole catalog of songs, and I've been doing it for 40 years. I've mastered the craft, all right? I'm like top tier. And then people only, he made, I think it's called Wonderwall. I'm like, bro.
Oh, for real.
Like,
or even like 303. Like, people only know that song, like, Don't Trust a Hoe, and then the rest of their catalog is just like, you know, 300,000 plays. And they've, you know, they were like hot as shit in, you know, 2010. Mm-hmm. And like people just don't know them. But I get the vibe they like doing the music they do personally, but I don't know. It just seems kind of seems like a harsh reality to face if you want to do anything professionally. If you love something, don't make it your job. Or like if you love somebody, don't live with them. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I've heard that a lot. I've heard that, with that last point you made with, like, if you have a friend, my friend, he comes to me, he's like, bro, it sucks because I'm going to have to move out soon, right? And he was going to move in with another friend that we both knew. And I thought about that saying, I'm like, you guys are probably going to end up hating each other, like, afterwards, because that's when you figure out all of the things that you don't like about that person. The fact that their shit stinks and all that, dude. Like they don't wash themselves the way you do. And it's like that with music, because then you have to figure out that music is attached to this whole industry, and you have to end up learning marketing and all this crazy shit. And I'm like, bro, I just want to make music and have people listen to it.
Right. And the only way to escape that is if you have the finances to, like, just pay. If I wanted to pay somebody to do my marketing and pay somebody to do my my album art and pay somebody to produce short form content for me, I would do that. But it just sounds like as soon, the second I flip that switch into, like, now I'm going to be doing this, as like a job, that sounds pretty harsh. So
yeah, I've always pictured it, instead of a job, I always pictured it as an adventure where I get to actually reap the rewards of me working on my character through this art form, right? To me, I've always equated it to like the hero's journey, where I figured out I like it. I go out into the unknown, and I'm having to get embarrassed and learn all this shit and be a fool, and then I end up, becoming something that I like, a hero, and then boom, right? But the whole like you said, the more you figure out, you realize, like, this is much bigger than I thought. I do feel like, though, in recent times, with some of the things that do industrialize music, if I can use that term, like,
that's a good term.
Make it into this beast of a thing, are also allowing independent artists to fit in a little bit more. Like, like, albeit TikTok sucks a lot and takes the life out of certain music, it does let independent artists thrive a bit more. I think the future's brighter.
I, of course, I agree with you that the future is brighter, and I think that, TikTok kind of is the place where if you are going to go from nobody to blowing up and doing what you love for a living, I think that's the place where it's going to happen. And of course, I'm not throwing shade at people who make their livelihood doing that. It just seems kind of like, personally, I have trouble just texting my best friends back.
Yeah.
Because I don't like being on my phone. And so if I had to, sit there, you see, if you've ever paid attention to Kanye's posts, he has, the same 50 top commenters every single time who are hopping on their phone and commenting immediately the second he posts. And it's to do that, you have to, have your phone in your hand. And, I don't know, if I was going to, be successful, I would, in music, if I'm going to be successful, I feel like I've kind of resigned myself to this box of, I have to pay other people to do the actual work aspect of it, because when doing real work, I tend to get burnt out, after a year, Right. And I'd hate to be the guy who tried really hard for a year and then just feel like a failure afterwards because I didn't have the drive to try hard enough. It's probably different. Me hearing myself say that kind of puts it in a different life, a different light, how stupid that sounds. But at the same time, it just is, it's hard sitting on a computer all day. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you're saying. Because have you heard of the concept of people selling their souls or sacrificing somebody to get into the industry, right?
It's all metaphorical.
I think there's a heavy metaphorical thing going on where I notice myself physically degenerating the longer I sit and stay on this thing, even when I go to the gym and do stuff like that and try to connect, the bulk of my day is spent in front of this computer, whether it's schoolwork, learning and taking notes, studying, or like making music and like getting plugins and all that type of shit. I spend the bulk of my day here, and because of that, I am sacrificing my like actual health in order to get something that I think is fulfilling. And I swear to God, I do love it. I am in love with the whole process. It's really like someone that speaks to me, but also this thing where I can feel some of my like potential being sacrificed because of my time spent in front of a computer. Because it's a computer, I'm not going somewhere or having to meet people. It's all just me doing it by myself. Right. And it's odd. It's really odd.
The introversion aspect of it is totally exhausting. Mm-hmm. So I get how you feel. And I think that like when people talk about like, you know, like I sold my soul for this, I think that if you are forced to do anything that you don't want to do, like, I think that's, like, demonic in nature, where it's like, you know, I don't like going to work for 8 hours a day. That feels like it, like, sucks the life out of me. I don't want to really do that, but I need the money to live. Like, I feel like that's, like, you know, of course, if we're speaking strictly in metaphor, you know, like, it's demonic in nature. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you're selling your soul to, like, get the money to pay your rent, you know, and at the end of the day, like, I would rather, like, live in my car and do what I like to do for fun or make a few bucks doing it on my own terms than I would, like, slave away at a 9 to 5 and then have 20 minutes of freedom to do what I'm actually passionate about, you know? Like, I don't work to live, I'm sorry, I work to live, I don't live to work. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's, like, I guess, to tie a little bow on that, I think that a lot of people in the music industry who talk about, I sold my soul for this, you know, they took record deals and they have to change their music and their vision, and at that point, like, yeah, you sold out. You know what I mean?
Right. I used to say this joke a lot to my friends, and they would be like, you know, what if it doesn't work out? Da, 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 da. And I would say, I'm just going to sell all my belongings and go live in the woods somewhere. Like, hell yeah. You know, I used to be like super duper into like the whole spiritual stuff, you know, meditate and holistic. I'll say holistic, not spiritual, but holistic way of living, where I'd go outside and be just a hippie and just a lot of transcendentalist stuff. Because I read this book in high school called Into the Wild, and it totally changed my life. And it follows this guy, Chris McCandless. He literally just sells all his stuff, gives it to charity, and just walks around, and he ends up going to Alaska and dying there because he like starved or ate something wrong, right? But
he got poisoned, didn't he?
Right, yeah, something like that. That kind of was like, wow, like that kind of left a mark on me in the way that in my motivations, because I do plan on, like, one day when I'm done with the music stuff, I mean, I'll probably still make music, but I'm not going to pursue it with the same intensity. I would like to have my own log cabin in the woods and chill and raise my kids like I'm Kratos or some shit, but, like, it's because, like you said, I work to live, you know? And I would like to enjoy my work enough so I can spend my living space, like the time I have to live, pleasantly. You know, I don't feel like I'm being vampirically drained.
I have you mentioned the gym earlier. Of course, I also indulge myself in the gym.
Right.
I see a personal trainer. He's my good buddy Eric Kayas. He is a independent guy where, like, he, like, you know, quit his job and started his business pretty much, like, right when the pandemic hit, which was, you know, it early on it was kind of detrimental to him, but he pushed through and made it. And like, you know, he is super passionate about fitness. And he loves his clients and he loves being his own boss. But like, I do get the feeling that, like, you know, actually like doing the work, you know, he took something he loved and made it his work, and now he's just trying to like push through it so he can get to like, you know, it's like the whole idea, like, you work more now so you can work less later. Right now, dude is busting his ass and improving the lives of a lot of people along the way. And maybe in 2 more years, he's, you know, not going to have to like see people in person anymore. He can just sort of like focus on, you know, other aspects of his business and make his money that way. But like, you know, I just feel like, you know, it's like the whole thing, like a small business isn't profitable for 5 years. And when you have a brick and mortar store where there's actual money coming in and product going out, that's, you know, it's not that bad. But when it's something like, you know, when it's less materialistic things such as music or fitness or, you know, painting, that sort of thing, it's very, very hard to like look at what you're doing today. You know, I know you have more experience doing this music stuff, and like, of course, you got your Instagram and your SoundCloud and your YouTube where this is going. You have a lot of experience doing that, and right now it might seem like, you know, you don't really get why you're doing it, even though I know you do. But like, how's money gonna come of this? And you kind of just have to like trust the process and see that the work that you're doing now is going to be like tenfold in 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, you're building the foundation for your success today, and that's what's important. And I think that's why we do it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's my plan. That's my plan. That's what I aspire to do, and that's what I am doing. I think, though, the reason why I kind of like worded it as vampiric is because of the introversion associated with it, and the fact that it's online, which is kind of the like causing the introversion, because people don't see things happening online the same way they do in real life. So people don't come up to me and hey dude, congrats on getting 1,000 subscribers. Like, people don't pay attention like that. It's online, right? People aren't going to it's not like the gym where people can physically see your results. Like, it's something a bit more abstract. And I think the content creator is this person who is trying to make the internet yield real fruit, like make money off of it. It's like a money printing machine, essentially. You know, if you can do it right. And I think that's one of the reasons why people want to be YouTubers now. Like, back in the day, like, businesses didn't have YouTube channels. They didn't need one, but now everyone does, because they can, like, carpenters will film themselves like cutting up wood, and it'll go viral on TikTok because it's satisfying to see. And it's because it's on the internet, though, it feels less real. And I think it's a very new and unique phenomenon, and sometimes I struggle like dealing with that. How do you fare?
Well, I think, you know, a lot of people who look at like the content creation lifestyle, they kind of see that, you know, people are like, oh, I can just play video games all day and make money. You know what I mean? Where the reality of that is, if you've ever listened to James, the angry video game nerd guy, he's done a lot of talks about how his whole his whole passion is actually filmmaking. Like, he's more of a filmmaker than he is like a video game reviewer, etc. You know, and I think that's what it comes down to with a lot of these people who, like, you know, you see like people who make like Minecraft videos, where a lot of those people are like somebody who can make a really good mod for a game, you know, and they make a video focusing on their mod, and that's how they kind of blow up. like a lot of people who are making it as content creators, they're not like a one-trick pony, I guess. And I think there's this misconception that the internet is a money printer, because it's really not. I'm sure you know this because you've been navigating it, but the reality is like, because the internet is so vast and it connects literally everybody, like, you're always going to see that, like, within 2 clicks of somebody's page, like, there's somebody doing exactly what you're doing 10 times better. And that's just life. And that's because that guy has a broader skill set that he, like, got lucky in nurturing earlier on, and then utilized it. So I guess that's sort of what it comes down to me, where I'm like, if I ever make it as like an artist, I have to pay people for it, because I know I'm not good at marketing. I'm not passionate about marketing. I don't really want to learn marketing. It's just one of those things where it's really hard to, if I could go back 10 years, I would have done things a lot differently to make myself more successful today, or make what I'm doing easier.
Yeah, I envy a lot of these kids getting into the game at 14 and 12.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if I always say, like, and this is a futile dream, but I say it all the time, like, if I could go back in high school, or like see my past self, I'd first beat myself up, like, physically, and I say, bro,
yeah.
You need to take yourself seriously, because you have something here, like, and you don't want to squander it and spend like the rest of your adolescence beating yourself up because you're not doing what you need to be doing. And
yeah,
that's kind of like my main message to like any younger viewers watching, like, do something now. I saw this interview with Logan Paul, or Jake Paul, and they're talking about, like, if you're 18 to 21, that's the time you really need to be grinding if you want to do whatever you want, right? And
right.
I think it's even younger now. I think it's 14 to 16, because that's crazy. That's insanely young. But I think the market has changed, where people want to live through these celebrities or influencers. So the closer they are to their age, the better. There's this guy who blew up, and his name's Fulcrum, and he just goes around and like Target, Lowe's, and these retail stores, and he just smokes weed and says positive stuff.
Oh yeah, dude, he's hitting those double blinkers in the Lowe's.
Yeah, double Benjamins. I love.
Yeah,
that.
That's right. Benjamin Franklin, dude.
He's like 20, 21, 22, and I would have had no idea. I would have thought he was younger than me. But I think it's because, like, his youthfulness allows people to project onto him and almost like be there with him. And the rise of like every influencer having a parasocial relationship with their viewers, that's commonplace now.
Yeah, well, and I think touching on the like, you should be getting into it before you're 21. I think you're absolutely 100% correct. I'll circle back to double Benjamins here. But it's like, you look at a kid in high school, and there of course are people who have like rougher upbringings, where it's like they do have to work to be able to make life and going to school possible. But there are a lot of people, the average kid in America has like unlimited free time. But like when they're in like high school, these aren't people who are working, they're, not really doing anything. Like if my experience in high school is like the majority of the world, there are like hundreds of kids who are in my graduating class who are playing like hundreds of hours of video games every week. I was one of them. I wasted a lot of time when I was in high school. But it's like, you were saying if you could go back, you'd like beat some sense into yourself. I absolutely would do the same. And I think that everybody, like, I don't know, most of the people that I've met in my life and asked about this have said if I could go back, I would do it 100% differently. And I think that's just like, you know, by the time you turn 18, maybe that's the either Logan Paul or Jake Paul, maybe that's their point, is like, you know, before you're an adult, you don't really have a perspective of like what you should be doing. And once you like become an adult and have the door of opportunity thrown wide open, you see yourself as an 18-year-old like, okay, I don't really have very much of a skill set, and I don't know like what I'm gonna do. And 18 to 21, if you're going to college, there's a little bit of fucking off you can still do. Sorry, excuse my French. You still have some wiggle room. So I think that's what they're talking about, because like, you know, I'm 23 and I get my, you know, 20 minutes a day of maximum productivity in my creative aspects. And that's just because like I gotta work, I got all this other stuff I gotta do, and it's just, you know, the more time that you have, the better. And if you have a huge amount of free time, please use it. But yeah, and I mean, I don't really know how to wrap that thought up. I guess that's a good spot to stop that thought.
Yeah. One of the people I watch, and to me, he is the best person for artists. Like ever since the pandemic, the whole self-help sphere has blown up tremendously, because there's a lot of young people who like gravitate towards that, and because I feel like there is this overwhelming sense of nihilism that is out for young people. Like, we feel like we've discovered the whole world. We have cars. There's nothing. You have to really think and try your hardest to come up with a way to innovate in today's world. You have to be really clued into something to find a way to either create a problem or solve a problem, you know, so, you know, you can so-called innovate, right? So,
right.
It's easy to just be like, well, I guess there's nothing for me to do as a human being, right? You don't have to hunt any animals or do simple shit like that. If you feel like that as a young person, you will spend your time achieving false accomplishments. And it's super easy today to become a creator, but it's also super easy to like be a consumer. I think it's like super easy, you know. And
it's way easier, dude. We're like cows in the field grazing.
Yeah, exactly. And the longer you wait and stay in that mindset, life will catch up to you, right? And then you'll have less time. It'll just fill up, because all children are put on this pipeline to work. It is so crazy. I'm not like anti-capitalist or hardcore anti-capitalist or anything, but we're all set up off this pipeline that we hardly have any say over. And I think there's this obsession inside the hearts of young people to like live out full adult lives and as kids, right? So
right.
And you see this because kids on TikTok and on social media shit, they're just so sexualized. Like,
it's fucked up.
So, and I feel like that's reflective of this attitude that they have, where for a long time, kids are just dismissed as something. Oh, you're dumb. You haven't even lived a life yet. So the kids are like, we're going to prove you wrong. We're going to masquerade as adults and do drugs and all the things that you guys did, right? In your 20s. And
well, we did that too, of course, right? Like, are we calling the pot calling the kettle black or whatever?
Yeah.
Because I was like that for sure.
I mean, I definitely partook. I'm not absolving myself of any,
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not like calling you out. I just want to state, like, I'm of course just as bad. You know, if anything, I would be talking shit on myself. You know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm speaking from. You know, I'm speaking from like experience, because I always felt like that kids weren't necessarily. We were talked at or talked past, but never talked to.
Right.
So, so that's what I think is going on. And so to connect this to the music, I see young kids who are 14 and 16 blowing up, just like they do it so they can look cool at school, right? and they end up getting a little TikTok clout and ends up snowballing into something bigger than they could have ever imagined, and now labels are hitting them up, and it's like crazy. And
just imagine, like, I will say, if everyone was trying to do it, it would be really bad for actual, you know, people who like really want to do music. They're not just doing it to be cool. But like, you know, I think everyone should be trying it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think that, yeah, I think so too. I think everybody should have like that outlet. But
it's a really healthy outlet to have.
For sure.
Like, it's, you know, I would rather, you know, I used to smoke a lot of weed. I used to partake in a fair amount of psychedelics as well. And if I had spent the time that I was smoking weed and playing video games, you know, if I had spent that time making music, I probably would be a lot further ahead than I am right now, you know?
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you can speak to when it comes to the future? Where do you see the whole creative space on the internet in the future, in about 1 year?
You know, in about 1 year, I think essentially it's going to be pretty similar to what we have now. I think as, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on in social media right now, like Twitter kind of looks like it's not doing too hot. You know, it looks like they're still trying to ban TikTok. So if that, you know, if like Twitter and TikTok end up going away for some reason or being like irrelevant, I think that something else is just going to come in and fill that niche. And hopefully it's better, you know, and I think that would be a reasonable thing to think in a year we might have another social media platform. But, you know, in 10 years, it goes one of two ways where people are either, you know, in control of their creative freedom and it's super easy for people to, like, pop up and show their stuff to as many relevant people as possible, or it's going to be a thing where, like, you know, in Hollywood, they sort of have, like, industry plants, or, you know, in the music industry, of course, too, there's, like, industry plants where it's, like, they tout somebody as this is somebody who came from nothing, but it's actually like, you know, they were financed by the industry and they're just a face and they're not actually a creative. I think that I can see a reality where algorithms start blowing up people who, maybe this already happens, I don't really know, but I could see it being a thing where an algorithm is blowing up people based on, like, you know, like, oh, this, you know, this 22-year-old girl who plays acoustic guitar and has a good voice, like, we'll just push her to as many people as possible because the algorithm prefers that sort of content to be shown. You know, it, like, ultimately ends up being more catered rather than more free, you know?
Right.
And I think that, like, you know, I'm hoping we just get to the point where, like, when I tell Instagram that I want to see posts about music, they are showing me posts about music instead of videos of a girl shaking her ass to a trap beat.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? Like, that's cool and all, of course, like, I don't mind that, but it's like, I'm here to, like, get mixing tips.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, my friend says the algorithm is something that is reactive, where it's like it slides something in, tests the video out, and if it gets picked up, it keeps being pushed, and then if people see fit to copy that, so they can get their own views, it'll happen like that. And it's hard, bro. Like, my whole point is, like, when I'm about this whole goddamn thing, everything I'm talking about is that I'm having to think so much, bro. I'm having to work so fucking hard to and be clued into all this little shit. But I swear to God, I'm working 10 times as harder, and I feel like I don't have to, as these other people who I feel like are doing better than me. I don't know, man. It's a very weird thing. Here's a question. Do you ever have you ever tried, like, excuse me, have you ever tried paying for like Instagram ads or anything like that? Nope.
Apparently they do really, really well. Like the algorithm for like if you are paying for promotion, it actually shows your stuff to accounts that would be interested in seeing it. And I think for a guy like you, it's not too expensive. It might be worth doing, but you know, I haven't tried it personally because I don't have, you know, the fruits of my labor are not being harvested yet, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't have that much that's actually finished and out there, so.
Right. For sure. You know, I'll give it a try.
Yeah, or like look at the metrics or something, see if it's worth it to you, you know.
What would... We went over a lot. So...
Yeah, we did.
How would you say, if you could speak to somebody who just got in, right? They just stumbled on this interview and they're like, damn, well, what does all this really mean? What can I do with it, right? What would you recommend to somebody just starting, you know, some methods to help them get their foot in the door when it comes to all this algorithm bullcrap?
Well, you know, as a guy who, you know, frankly, I don't really claim to be somebody who's like clued into knowing what's going on with the algorithm. But I think that if you are truly passionate about what you're doing and you want to be the best at it, there's no reason that you can't find some sort of audience in today's world. You know what I mean? No matter what size that audience may be, you know, there's 8 billion people on the planet and like something like 6 billion of them have internet access. So it's like, keep grinding and find your niche, dude.
Hell yeah.
Get in that pocket.
For sure. Why do you call yourself Mental Illness Simulator?
You know, that's probably something that I've had as just a general tag online for probably 4, maybe 5 years. And at first it was like, you know, I have like a bunch of burner email accounts that just have like stupid names so that I don't have to sign up for websites that I don't want to. And the Mental Illness Simulator was one of those email accounts where I was using it as like a name on like I had like a Reddit account attached to it that I've since deleted. And I had it like as an Instagram account, as a burner account. But, you know, it's one of those names, like, have you listened to the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia podcast at all?
No, not the podcast, no.
So they talk about how the name It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, it's like a mouthful, and it's really like, you know, it really is like just kind of like in your face. It doesn't seem like something that, you know, if you see the name alone and knew nothing about the show, you know, it's not a name that really attracts people. And I didn't choose the name for like, you know, going on my main accounts and stuff. I didn't choose the name for the reason where I'm like, I want this to be off-putting, but it's just like, it's kind of like a mouthful, and also, you know, if somebody sees like Mental Illness Simulator, they might be like, what is that? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, a little bit, it's a little bit of a marketing thing, I guess. It's just not a very good one.
That's totally fine. You know, and I feel like names and like NIMS, like just the things that we go by on the internet are I don't know. I think they're pretty cool. I think they're telling of the general themes of stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to talk about before we move on?
I think we covered a whole lot of stuff. I don't know. I think that sort of covers most of the bases. I'm not gonna lie.
All right. Well, now's the part of the interview where if you want to give any special shout outs, any disses, or anything of the sort, now's the time to do so.
Yeah, so I want to shout out a few people. Are you going to put any sort of like, you know, ending card that might have some tags on it?
Absolutely, I can do that.
Yeah, so I got my buddy Marcus Basney, a phenomenal artist. We have co-produced some music together. He's like my best friend since high school. We've been through the shit together. Check him out. Try and blow his art up, especially if you like more, you know, it's like modern, but has a lot of classical influence. And also, like, we're kind of working on an EP right now, so there will be more on that later. I got a buddy named Brian who does screen printing in Minneapolis. He is very good at screen printing, so if you're in Minneapolis and need merch for a show, hit him up. And then I have, of course, my fitness coach. He is a great influence on my life. I just want to make sure I get his tag right here from Instagram. I believe it is Fitness Coach Kayes. That's Keyes. If you're looking for fitness advice or life advice or anything like that, he's kind of your guy to hit up. And if you're looking to work with him, he of course does online training. And that's sort of how I got into working with him in person. So it's, the online training aspect of it is definitely worthwhile if you're trying to improve your body and then also your mind at the same time, because he incorporates that like mindfulness, wellness sort of thing. And then to all the haters, eat it, bro. I don't think I really have any haters, but if I do, sorry about whatever I did.
Yeah, man. Blank them haters. They can eat it, just like you said.
They can eat it. I mean, I don't really care if I don't know. Do you see there's something we might want to touch on. Do you know if you have any haters? Just real quick, we'll keep this short.
Man, I'm 100% sure that I have haters out there. The thing about haters, the real ones, the ones that harbor vehement resentment towards people or myself are quiet about it because they actually want to hurt you.
I just wish, I don't really know who has it out for me. Like, I'm sure that those people exist, but yeah, I guess if you got anything against me, just say something and we'll squash the beef. So,
yep.
That's what I gotta say to the haters. Cut that in there. We'll just say something to me. We'll squash the beef. How about that?
Yeah. Civil, communion and peace and love.
Yeah, I'm a very civil guy. So
awesome.
I try to be at least. So
well.
Anyways, yeah.
Listen, it's been Saintly Silas and my boy Mental Illness Simulator. You know where to find him. I'll put his information up here. Bodeine. You know what I'm saying? And listen, you don't want to be that guy sleeping, being behind, still stuck in 2016, thinking that's what's popping. No. Right now, watching this video, you're on the forefront of the underground. So stay tuned, stay hip. It's been me, and I'm out.
Gang, that was good.